My child, I have seen you standing at the threshold of that closed door, your hand resting against the cold wood of a heart that refuses to open. I have heard the silent echoes of your sighs when the dinner table remains quiet, and I have felt the weight of the tears you shed when you think no one is watching. You have been carrying a heavy burden, the weight of a loved one whose spirit has become like flint, unyielding and sharp. You have tried to use your words to build bridges, only to find them burned before the first stone was laid. You have tried to show love through service, yet it seemed to vanish into a void of indifference. But listen closely to my voice today. I am the master craftsman of the soul, and I am stepping into the spaces where you feel powerless. I am the one who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, and I am the one who can command the warmth to return to a frozen heart. This stubbornness you see is not a wall that I cannot penetrate. It is merely a shield they have built out of fear, pain, and the scars of 1,000 hidden battles. Do not be discouraged by the exterior, for I see the trembling spirit within. Even now, while you are reading these words, my spirit is moving like a gentle, persistent rain upon the dry ground of their conscience. I am softening the soil. I am loosening the roots of bitterness that have held them captive for so long. You have spent so much energy trying to figure out the right words to say, but I tell you now, leave the speaking to me. I speak in the silence of the midnight hour when their defenses are down. I speak through the memories of kindness they cannot erase. I speak through the quiet conviction that tugs at them when they are alone. While you rest, I am working. While you pray, I am moving. Do not let your heart be troubled by the appearance of things. A seed planted in the dark does not show its growth immediately, but it is changing beneath the surface. Just as I am working on their heart, I am also reaching out to yours. I see the anxiety that keeps you awake, the worry about how you will make ends meet, and the fear that you will always be walking this path alone. I am your provider. I am the source of your peace. The financial gates that have seemed locked will begin to swing open as you release this person into my hands. When you stop trying to fix what only I can heal, you create space for my miracles to overflow into every area of your life. You are not alone in this house, and you are not alone in this struggle. I am with you, a constant companion, a fatherly presence that will never leave your side. I am wrapping my arms around you right now, taking the tension from your shoulders and the ache from your chest. Your faithfulness has not gone unnoticed. Every act of patience you have shown, every sharp word you have swallowed in favor of peace, and every prayer you have whispered in the dark is a seed of light that is even now blooming in the heavenly realms. The breakthrough is not coming, it has already begun. You will see a change in their eyes, a flicker of softness where there was only ice. You will hear a different tone in their voice, a subtle shift that signals the walls are crumbling. Do not rush this process with your own hands, for I am doing a deep work that will last. Trust in my timing and my infinite love. I love that stubborn family member even more than you do, for I am the one who knit them together in the womb. I know the exact moment they will turn, and I promise you that moment is drawing near. Be still, my beloved child. Let my peace wash over you like a river. Let the worries of tomorrow fade into the certainty of my grace. I am your shield, your strength, and your very great reward. The miracle is entering your home now, not just in the heart of another, but in the quiet confidence of your own soul. We are walking this path together, and I will lead you both into the light of a new day. Watch the way the light hits the floorboards in the hallway tonight, my child, and see it as a symbol of the subtle shifts I am making in the foundation of your home. You have felt the weight of the silence between you, a silence that often feels like a thick, impenetrable fog, but I am moving within that very stillness. Think back to the kitchen table this morning, the way they avoided your gaze while reaching for their coffee. You saw only the avoidance, but I saw the tremor in their hand, a tiny fracture in the armor they have worn for decades. That armor was not forged in a day, and it will not be shed in an instant, but I am loosening the straps of their pride even as you sleep. I see the memories that haunt them, the ones they have never told you about, the childhood sting of being misunderstood, the betrayal that taught them that vulnerability was a weakness, and the long nights where they convinced themselves that they must be the only pillar of their own strength. I am untangling those old, gnarled roots. When you feel the urge to speak a defense of yourself, or to point out their coldness, I want you to instead breathe my name. Let the air in your lungs be a prayer. I am teaching you a new language, a dialect of the soul that does not require words, but is spoken through the grace of a gentle touch or the simple act of leaving a door slightly ajar. Notice the small things. Notice when they linger a second longer in the room before walking away. Notice the way their shoulders drop just an inch when you hum a soft melody in the other room. These are the tremors before the wall comes down. You have been a gardener in a desert, pouring your love into what looked like barren sand. But I tell you, the irrigation of my spirit has reached the seeds deep beneath the surface. You do not need to shout to be heard by a heart that is finally beginning to listen. I am the one who softens the clay. I am the one who turns the stone back into flesh. There were moments when you felt like giving up, when the loneliness of being the only one trying felt like a physical burden on your back, but I was there, lifting the heaviest part of that cross for you. Every time you chose kindness over a biting remark, you were painting a stroke of my glory onto the canvas of their heart. They see it. They cannot admit it yet because their pride is a frightened animal backed into a corner, but they see the light radiating from you. They are wondering where your peace comes from. They are wondering how you can still smile when they have given you nothing but shadows. This curiosity is the beginning of their return. I am bringing to their mind the times you stood by them, even when they pushed you away. I am reminding them of the warmth of your presence, making the coldness of their own isolation unbearable. Tonight, as the house grows quiet, I want you to release the need for an immediate apology or a sudden confession. Rest in the knowledge that I am doing the work that you cannot do. I am walking through the corridors of their mind, opening windows they have kept shuttered for years. I am showing them that it is safe to be known, safe to be loved, and safe to let go of the heavy burden of being right. You are my vessel in this house, a living testimony of my persistence. Do not grow weary in this holy waiting. The dawn does not break all at once. It begins with a faint, almost imperceptible glow on the horizon. That glow is already here. It is in the way they looked at an old photograph today, or the way they paused before speaking your name. I am stitching together the broken threads of your relationship with a golden cord that cannot be broken. Trust the silence. In the silence, I am loudest. In the stillness, I am most active. We are crafting a story of redemption that will be told for generations, a story not of a perfect family, but of a family perfected by my grace. I am with you in the mundane, in the clatter of dishes and the ticking of the clock. Every moment is saturated with my purpose. Feel my hand upon your head, blessing your thoughts and calming your spirit. You are not just surviving this season. You are being refined within it, becoming a beacon that will eventually guide them home. The heart you think is unreachable is currently being held in my nail-scarred hands, and I am not letting go. Observe the subtle shifting of the shadows in the hallway tonight. Even as they retreat into the familiar fortress of their room, clicking the lock with a finality that used to wound you, I want you to see it differently. That lock is not a rejection of you. It is a desperate attempt to keep the world from seeing the cracks in their own foundation. Beneath that crust of pride, I am planting seeds of remembrance. I am bringing to their mind the smell of the pine needles from the summer you were both young and the world felt limitless. I am reminding them of the sound of laughter that did not require a defense. Do you remember the blue ceramic bowl that sits on the top shelf, the one with the chipped edge? They touched it today when you were not looking. They felt the jagged part, and for a fleeting second, they acknowledged their own brokenness. That is the miracle, my child. It is not always found in grand gestures or tearful reconciliations, not yet. It is found in the finger tracing a chip in a bowl. It is found in the way they did not snap back when you asked about the mail. This is the softening. It is like the slow thrum of spring heat against a frozen lake. The ice does not vanish in an instant, but it groans and shifts, losing its grip on the shore. When you sit across from them at the kitchen table, and the air feels thick with the things left unsaid, do not fill it with your own anxiety. Let my peace be the bridge. When they look at their hands, those hands that have grown calloused from holding onto grudges, I am showing them the beauty of open palms. I am whispering to them in the middle of the night, when the house is still and the distractions of the day have faded. I am showing them the face of their father, or the shadow of a disappointment from 20 years ago that they have mistaken for a personality trait. I am untangling the knots they did not even know they had tied. You see the wall. I see the scared child behind it. You see the sharp tongue. I see the shield of a person who was once told their voice did not matter. This is why I ask you for gentleness. Your gentleness is the solvent that dissolves their bitterness. Every time you offer a cup of water without a demand for gratitude, you are pouring coals of love upon their head, not to burn but to warm. Think of the garden in the winter. To the naked eye, everything is dead. The earth is hard, the branches are brittle, and there is no sign of life. But deep beneath the frost, the roots are expanding. They are reaching deeper into the dark earth, preparing for a bloom that will take everyone by surprise. This relationship is in its winter, but I am the Lord of the seasons. I am the one who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, and I am the one who is commanding the light to find a way into the crevices of their stubborn heart. When they sigh heavily over their morning coffee, that is a prayer they do not know how to pray. It is a weary soul recognizing its own thirst. I am the living water, and I am drawing near to that thirst. I want you to look at them tonight with my eyes. Look past the furrowed brow and the crossed arms. See the history of hurts that have layered themselves like sediment over their true identity. I am the master sculptor, and I am beginning to chip away at the stone. It takes time. It takes a steady hand and an unwavering love. Do not fear their silence. Their silence is the workshop where I am doing my finest work. In the quiet, they cannot argue with me. In the quiet, my voice is the only one that remains. I am telling them that they are forgiven. I am telling them that they no longer have to carry the weight of being the one who is always right. I am showing them that there is more power in a whispered, "I am sorry," than in 1,000 shouted, "I told you so's." You are learning the art of the long-suffering, a divine attribute that brings you closer to my own heart. Every time you choose to remain kind when they are cold, you are reflecting my own nature. I have been patient with you, and now I am teaching you how to be patient with them. It is a sacred exchange. The kitchen light flickering, the sound of the evening news, the smell of rain on the pavement, all of these are the backdrop of a transformation that will one day be complete. I am moving the furniture of their soul, making room for joy where there has only been duty. I am replacing their heart of stone with a heart of flesh, just as I promised. You will see it in the eyes first. There will be a softening of the gaze, a slight loosening of the jaw. You will see it when they offer a small, unsolicited kindness, a gesture so minor you might miss it if you were not watching for my hand. Treasure those moments. They are the first green shoots of a garden that is about to burst into life. Do not push, do not prod, just be. Be the warmth they can come to when the coldness of their own pride becomes too much to bear. I am holding you both. I am the space between you, and I am the love that binds you. The story is not over. The most beautiful chapters are yet to be written. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust me. I see you standing at the sink, the warm water running over your hands as you wash the evening plates. You feel the weight of the day, the exhaustion of maintaining a grace that feels humanly impossible. But remember, it is not your strength that is sustaining this peace. It is mine. When you dried that glass and set it carefully in the rack, you were not just cleaning a dish. You were setting the stage for a future meal where laughter will be the main course. I am in the very steam rising from the water. I am in the quiet hum of the refrigerator. Every mundane detail of this home is a witness to my persistence. Even now, as they sit in the living room, staring at the television, but seeing only the ghosts of past arguments, I am rearranging their perspective. I am highlighting the moments of your faithfulness, the times you chose silence over sarcasm, and the times you chose to stay when it would have been easier to walk away. They are noticing. Even if they never say it, they are noticing the change in you. Your peace is a quiet provocation. It challenges their need for conflict. It is hard to stay angry at someone who refuses to be an enemy. As you go to bed tonight, lay your head on the pillow and release the burden of their soul to me. You are the gardener, but I am the one who gives the growth. You cannot force the flower to bloom by pulling at its petals. You can only provide the soil, the water, and the light. I will provide the rest. Sleep in the assurance that while you rest, I am still moving. I am still speaking. I am still softening the hardest edges of the one you love. Our work is far from finished, but the foundation is secure. Tomorrow is a new day, another opportunity for my grace to be sufficient for you both. When the first sliver of dawn touches the windowsill, I am there, watching the dust motes dance in the light you haven't yet noticed. You wake with a heavy heart, the weight of yesterday's silence still pressing against your chest like a physical burden, making the simple act of sitting up feel like a mountain climb. But I am already breathing into the lungs of the one you love, the one who occupies the room down the hall or the other side of the bed, with a fortress of cold indifference. As they stir, I am bringing to their mind a memory they tried to bury. The way you used to laugh together at the simplest things, like the time you both got caught in the sudden summer downpour while trying to fix that old, rusted screen door. That memory is a seed I am watering in the secret places of their heart where they think I cannot go. In the kitchen, as you measure out the coffee beans, notice the way the early light reflects off the tarnished silver spoon that belonged to your grandmother. That reflection is my signature. Every grain of coffee you pour is an act of service, a prayer without words, a brick being laid in a new wall that protects rather than divides. I am in the heat of the mug as you hold it, warming your palms before the house fully awakens. When they finally walk into the room, their shoulders tight with the armor they think is necessary for survival, do not be afraid of the thick silence that follows them. It is not an empty space. It is a sanctuary where I am working. I am showing them the subtle lines of weariness around your eyes, not to stir their guilt, but to show them the quiet, heroic cost of your love. They see the way you do not snap back when they complain about the bitterness of the brew or the coldness of the floor. They see the way you simply move the butter closer to their hand without being asked. These are the small, seismic shifts that cause the walls of Jericho to crumble. It does not always happen with a shout and a trumpet. More often, it happens with the soft clink of a ceramic plate and the decision to keep the peace. I am reminding them of their own father's stubbornness and the lonely, hollow legacy it left behind, and I am simultaneously showing them a different path through your presence. The blue mug with the small chip on the rim, remember when they gave that to you years ago at a roadside stop. they remember. They look at it now as you sip from it, and they feel a sharp pang of something they cannot yet name. It is not quite regret, but it is the beginning of a thaw. I am the warmth that will melt that ice, layer by microscopic layer. Listen to the rhythm of the house today. The creak of the floorboards as they pace the hallway, the way they linger by the window staring at the overgrown garden you've tried to tend alone. They are restless because I am stirring the stagnant waters of their soul. They want to cling to their anger because anger feels like power, but your gentleness is stripping them of that illusion. I am teaching you to wait with a holy expectancy. Patience is not just the passage of time. It is the active work of trusting that my hands are never idle, even when the surface of the water is still. When they sigh heavily over the morning paper, I am in that breath, catching the frustration and the unspoken apology they aren't ready to voice. When they look at the framed photograph on the mantel, the one where you are both younger and the light in your eyes hasn't been dimmed by years of friction, they are seeing more than just the past. They are seeing a possibility. They are wondering if that version of themselves still exists somewhere beneath the calluses. I am whispering to them that it does, and that I have kept it safe. The sun is climbing higher now, casting long, golden shadows across the linoleum, but the light is growing sharper, exposing the unnecessary clutter of old grudges. Every interaction you have today is a thread I am weaving into a new garment for this relationship. It will not look like the old one, which was fragile and thin. This one will be reinforced by the very trials that threaten to tear it apart. When you speak today, let your words be seasoned with the salt of my wisdom, which knows when to speak and when to let the silence do the heavy lifting. You do not need to defend your dignity. I am your shield. You do not need to prove your point. I am the truth that eventually reveals all things. Just be. Be the vessel through which my grace flows, even if it feels like you are pouring water into a parched desert. Even the desert has a memory of rain, and it will bloom if the moisture is consistent. Watch the way they linger in the doorway before leaving the room. They want to say something, a word to bridge the gap, but the habits of a decade are heavy. Do not rush them. Do not finish their sentences or demand an explanation for their moods. Just offer them the space to be flawed, to be human, and to be loved in spite of their sharp edges. That is how I love you. That is how I am loving them through you. The very air in this home is thickening with a thin, holy expectancy. You might not see the full transformation by sunset, but look for the small, miraculous signs. The way their hand brushed yours when you passed the mail. The way they didn't look away when your eyes met for a fleeting second. These are the first green shoots breaking through the frozen ground of a heart that everyone else gave up on. But I have not given up. I am the God of the impossible, and I am particularly fond of the stubborn ones. For once they turn to me, their strength becomes a pillar for my kingdom. Keep gardening. Keep believing. I am bringing them home, one quiet, mundane morning at a time, and the foundation we are building is being tempered in the fire of this very moment. Consider the kitchen table, the scratched oak, the rings left by years of hurried coffee cups, the history of meals eaten in a silence that often felt like a wall. You see a battlefield where words were withheld like weapons. I see a sanctuary in the making. Notice the way the morning light currently spills across the salt shaker, casting a long, soft shadow toward his empty chair. This is where the work is happening. When you stood there this morning, pressing the button on the kettle, and you chose not to bring up the sharp comment from last night, you weren't being weak. You were being like me. You were holding the perimeter of peace. You think your silence is a void, but I am filling that void with the weight of my presence. It is a holy resistance, a refusal to let the shadows dictate the temperature of this home. Remember the way he looked at the old photograph on the mantel yesterday, The one of the summer the two of you actually laughed until your sides ached. He thought you didn't see him touch the frame. He thought his nostalgia was a secret. But I saw the way his thumb traced the edge of the glass, a reflexive search for a warmth he has forgotten how to ask for. That is the ice beginning to groan under the pressure of the coming spring. You are the warmth, even when you feel cold yourself. Especially then. When you ironed those shirts yesterday, smoothing out the stubborn creases in the heavy cotton, you were physically enacting the prayer of your heart. You were smoothing the path for my spirit to walk. Do not underestimate the theology of a folded garment or a prepared meal. He notices that the buttons are all there, that the collars are crisp, and though he says nothing, his heart records the evidence of a love that requires no repayment. This is the quietest kind of glory. He carries an inheritance of stone, a lineage of men who were taught that to be soft was to be broken. I am teaching him that only the soft can truly survive the wind. He watches you when you are not looking, when you are reading in the armchair, or when you are simply staring out the window at the birds. He is studying the mystery of your quietness. He is wondering where your strength comes from, because he knows he has tried to rattle you and failed. He is beginning to realize that your anchor is set in a harbor he cannot yet see, and that realization is the beginning of a holy curiosity. You asked me why the progress is so slow, why the breakthrough feels like it is moving at the pace of a glacier. But look at the glacier, my child. It is the most powerful force on Earth, reshaping entire continents not by a sudden explosion, but by the relentless, heavy grace of its movement. I am reshaping the geography of his soul. I am grinding down the jagged peaks of his pride and filling the deep, dark valleys of his old shames. Last night, when he turned off the television and sat in the dark for those 10 minutes before coming to bed, he wasn't just tired. He was listening to the echo of your kindness. My spirit was using the gentle tone you used when you asked about his day, a tone he didn't deserve, which is exactly why it pierced him. Grace is only grace when it is unearned. If he deserved your kindness, it would merely be a transaction. Because he does not deserve it, it is a revelation. I am showing him my face through the curve of your smile and the patience in your hands. Do not grow weary in this gardening of the heart. The soil of a stubborn soul is rich with minerals, forged in the heat of past fires. Once it softens, once the rain of my spirit finally soaks past the crust, the growth will be magnificent. You are not just waiting for him to change. I am changing you in the waiting. I am teaching you the secrets of the deep waters, the resilience of the reed that bends but does not snap. Look for the grace in the mundane today. Notice the way he might linger a second longer at the table, or the way he clears his own plate without being prompted. These are not small things. They are the seismic shifts of a world being reborn. I am in the kitchen with you. I am in the hallway when you pass each other. I am in the very air that carries your unspoken prayers. The foundation we are laying is deep, and it is being tempered in the fire of these very moments of patience. Do not rush the dawn. The light is already coming, and it is more beautiful because of the long night you have endured together. Stay in the flow of my love, and watch how the hardest stone eventually yields to the persistent, gentle rhythm of the falling rain. The silence in the room tonight is not the cold wall it used to be. Do you feel the difference? It has become a womb, a space where something new is gestating. Look at him now, sitting in that worn leather armchair, the one with the cracked seams that he refuses to let you replace. He is staring at the flickering blue light of the evening news, his jaw set in that familiar line of defiance, but notice his hands. They are resting open on his knees, not balled into the fists he carried for 3 decades. This is the fruit of your quietness. Every time you chose not to snap back, every time you swallowed the sharp retort that would have been justified but not restorative, You were removing a brick from the fortress he built around his spirit. You are learning that my strength is not found in the thunder, but in the steady, relentless pull of the tide that reshapes the shoreline without making a sound. I want you to see what I see when I look at him. I see the little boy who was told that tenderness was a weakness, the young man who learned that the world only rewards the hard and the unyielding. I see the scars on his knuckles from the years he spent working in the cold, providing for a family he didn't know how to talk to. His stubbornness is not a weapon, though it has often wounded you. It is a shield he no longer knows how to put down. He is terrified of the vulnerability that grace requires. When you offer him that cup of tea exactly the way he likes it, 2 sugars, just a splash of milk, without him having to ask, you are whispering to his soul that he is known and seen without having to earn it. You are practicing a form of high priestess work in the sanctuary of your kitchen, turning the mundane act of steeping tea into a liturgy of reconciliation. Do not be discouraged when he retreats into his shell tomorrow. There will be days when the frost returns, when he speaks with a sharpness that makes your heart ache. On those days, remember that the thaw is never a linear process. There are freezes and melts, sunrises and sudden storms. When he pushes you away, it is often because the warmth of your love is touching a place that has been frozen for so long that the sensation of feeling again is painful. Be the sun for him. The sun does not argue with the ice. It simply persists in being warm until the ice has no choice but to turn to water. I am giving you the capacity to be that constant light. I am expanding the chambers of your heart so that you can hold his bitterness without being poisoned by it. This is how you become like me. This is how the cross becomes a lived reality rather than a distant symbol, by carrying the weight of another's brokenness until they are strong enough to carry it themselves. Notice the small details today. See the way he moved the heavy boxes in the garage so you wouldn't have to strain your back, though he did it while you weren't looking. See the way he lingered near the doorway when you were laughing on the phone with your friend, his spirit thirsty for the joy he doesn't yet know how to join. He is standing at the edge of a great ocean of my mercy, and you are the one standing in the surf, beckoning him in not with words, but with the peace that radiates from your very presence. You are becoming a thin place, a bridge between his isolation and my communion. I know your bones feel heavy sometimes. I know there are nights when you cry into your pillow, wondering if you are pouring your life into a desert that will never bloom. Lean into me in those moments. Let my love be the well you draw from when your own reservoir is dry. You are not doing this in your own strength. You are a conduit. The more you let go of your need to see immediate results, the more room I have to move. We are working on a timeline that spans eternity. The shifts are happening in the molecular structure of his heart, in the quiet spaces between his breaths. Think of the old oak tree in the yard. You cannot see it growing if you stand and watch it for an hour, but over the years, its roots have cracked the pavement, and its branches have reached the roof. This is how my kingdom comes, stealthily, irresistibly, through the faithful persistence of the small. Tonight, when you turn out the lights and pass his door, do not feel the weight of what is still undone. Instead, feel the lightness of what has been surrendered. You have given me your yes, and that is the only thing I required of you. The rest is my handiwork. I am the master craftsman, and I am using the friction of his personality to polish the diamond of your character, even as I use the softness of your spirit to wear down his rough edges. It is a beautiful, reciprocal sanctification. Sleep in the knowledge that I am awake, watching over the seeds we have planted together. The rain is falling, the soil is turning, and beneath the surface, the life is already beginning to stir. Stay the course, my beloved child. We are just beginning to see the first green shoots of a harvest that will take your breath away. The night is far spent, but the morning is certain, And in that morning, you will see that every moment of patience was a thread of gold in a tapestry of redemption. When the morning light touches the edges of your curtains tomorrow, bringing with it the familiar weight of the day's responsibilities, do not look for a dramatic transformation in his eyes. Instead, look for the grace that allows you to breathe in the midst of the stalemate. When you find yourself in the kitchen, and the air is thick with the silence he uses as a shield, remember that silence is not an empty space. It is a workshop. While he stares at the steam rising from his coffee, I am whispering to the parts of his soul that he has kept locked away even from himself. I am addressing the child who was told that to be soft was to be broken, and the man who believes that to yield is to lose. You see a wall of granite. I see a structure of sand, held together only by the fear of collapse. When you offer a kind word and he meets it with a sharp retort, do not recoil. That sharpness is the sound of the old foundations cracking. It is the friction of the new life I am breathing into him rubbing against the dry bones of his past. Consider the way a frozen river thaws. It does not happen all at once. First, there are the invisible currents beneath the ice, warmer and swifter than the surface suggests. Then, the groaning of the ice as it begins to shift, a sound that can be misinterpreted as a threat when it is actually a song of liberation. You are witnessing the groaning. You are feeling the tension of the breakup. Do not mistake his increased resistance for a lack of progress. Often, the storm is fiercest just before the wind dies down and the sea becomes like glass. I am asking you to be the shore, firm, unmoving, and patient, letting the waves of his temperament wash over you without eroding your peace. Think back to the summers of your childhood, the way the heat would build until the air felt heavy and impossible to carry, and then the sudden, cooling relief of a thunderstorm. His heart is in that heavy, pre-storm stillness. The pressure is building because the old ways of being are no longer sufficient to contain the person I am calling him to be. He is uncomfortable because I am making his hiding places small. He is restless because I am stirring the waters of his memory, bringing to the surface long-forgotten moments of tenderness that he once discarded. Tomorrow, when he complains about the mundane, the coldness of the house, the noise of the street, the bitterness of the news, recognize that he is actually complaining about the thaw. He is reacting to the warmth of my presence which you carry into the room, a warmth that threatens the icy fortress he has lived in for decades. Your role is not to argue him into the light, but to simply be the light. When you move through the house with a song in your spirit, even if it is a silent one, you are rearranging the spiritual atmosphere. You are setting a table in the wilderness of his discontent. I want you to notice the small things tomorrow, the way he might linger a second longer in the room when you enter, or the way his shoulders drop just a fraction when you don't rise to his bait. These are the victories. They are not headlines, they are footnotes, but in the library of heaven, the footnotes are where the real story is told. I am weaving a net of circumstances around him, not to trap him, but to catch him when he finally lets go. There will be a moment, perhaps not tomorrow, but in the fullness of time, when the weight of his own armor becomes too much to bear. And in that moment, he will not find a judge waiting for him, but a sanctuary. He will look at you and see, for the first time, not an opponent to be bested, but a reflection of a love that never gave up. This is the work of the long-suffering. It is a quiet, steady pulse of devotion that outlasts the frantic energy of rebellion. Do not grow weary in this holy waiting. I am not distant. I am in the very crumbs on the table, in the pattern of the shadows on the wall, and in the strength of your hands as you go about your chores. I am the architect of this reconciliation, and I never leave a project unfinished. Every prayer you have whispered into your pillow, every tear you have wiped away in secret, has been gathered into my golden bowls. They are the water for the seeds. They are the fuel for the fire. You are not just a witness to his change. You are the catalyst, chosen specifically for the particular contours of his stubbornness. My grace is tailor-made for this situation. It fits the gaps in his history and the cracks in his pride. As you prepare to face the coming day, do not arm yourself with arguments or defenses. Arm yourself with the remembrance of my faithfulness to you. Remember how I found you in your own thickets, how I untangled the briars from your heart with a gentleness that surprised you. That same gentleness is what I am pouring through you now. It is a power that the world does not understand, a strength that looks like weakness but can move mountains. Rest now. Let your mind grow still. The stars are moving in their courses. The tides are responding to the moon, and the heart you love is being recalibrated by the one who knit it together in the first place. We are moving toward a beautiful unfolding. The dialogue between his soul and mine is constant, even when he is sleeping, even when he is angry. I am the persistent whisper that eventually silences the roar of the ego. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust the love that is even now working all things together for a good that will leave no room for regret. When the sun crests the horizon tomorrow, I want you to look at the dust motes dancing in the light of your kitchen window. They seem aimless, drifting in the stillness, yet each one is held by the same laws that govern the galaxies. So it is with the moments you spend in his presence. You feel the weight of his silence, the way he turns his shoulder when you try to reach him, the sharpness of his words that act like a fence around his spirit. You see a wall of stone. I see a structure of fear that is slowly being dismantled, pebble by pebble. You remember the dinner last November when the air grew thick with unspoken accusations, when he walked away before the meal was finished, leaving the taste of iron and regret in your mouth. I was there, sitting in the empty chair between you. I saw the way his hand trembled as he reached for the door handle. I heard the roar of his internal monologue, the one that tells him that to soften is to shatter. I am working beneath that roar. Think of the way a deep frost behaves. It arrives with a bite, hardening the earth until it feels like granite, seemingly invincible against any spade or seed. But the thaw does not happen with a hammer. It happens with the steady, invisible persistence of the sun. I am that sun, and you are the glass through which my warmth reaches him. Every time you choose not to snap back, every time you offer a simple cup of water without an attached demand for gratitude, you are focusing my light onto the frozen ground of his heart. Do you remember the old oak tree in the backyard of your childhood home? The one with the scar on its trunk where the swing used to be? Just as that tree absorbed the seasons, he has absorbed the storms of his life, burying the damage deep within the rings of his character. He believes that his stubbornness is his strength, a shell to protect the vulnerable child who learned too early that the world can be unkind. He is not fighting you. He is fighting the ghosts of his own inadequacy. When he looks at you, he sees a mirror that reflects the goodness he feels he has lost, and that reflection is sometimes more than he can bear. This is why he reacts with such vehemence. It is the reflexive kick of a soul that is being brought back to life after a long numbness. It hurts to feel again. It hurts to admit that the fortress was actually a prison. Do not be discouraged by the spikes he puts out. A rose does not apologize for its thorns, but the gardener knows that the bloom is worth the prick of the finger. I am the gardener of his soul, and I have never been intimidated by thorns. I am walking the corridors of his memory where you cannot go, the places where the doors were locked decades ago. I am opening the windows in the rooms of his shame, and letting the fresh air of my mercy circulate through the stagnant spaces. When he sits in his armchair tonight, staring into the flickering television or the darkness of the hall, he will feel a sudden, inexplicable sense of melancholy. That is not a sign of defeat, but of opening. It is the beginning of the holy ache, the realization that his self-sufficiency is a hollow reed. I am whispering to him about the beauty of surrender. I am showing him, in the quiet theater of his subconscious, the faces of those who love him, your face most clearly of all. I am teaching him a new language, one that doesn't require defense. It is a slow work, yes. You want the earthquake, the sudden transformation, the dramatic apology. But I am the God of the quiet growth, the one who works in the cells of the seed and the marrow of the bone. If I were to break him open all at once, the light would blind him. Instead, I am etching cracks in the shell, letting the grace seep in drop by drop, so that he can adjust to the brilliance of being loved without condition. Trust the silence. The silence between your words is where I am most active. When you are tempted to explain yourself, to justify your position, to win the argument, be still. Give me the space to speak to him in the dialect only his spirit understands. You are learning the art of the long love, a love that is not dependent on a quick return on investment. This is the love I have always had for you. Remember how long I waited at the edge of your own pride. Remember the years I stood by while you built your own walls and how I never once grew impatient. That same patience is now being cultivated in you. It is a divine inheritance. Tonight, as you lay your head down, envision his heart not as a stone, but as a garden in the dead of winter. It looks dead, it looks cold, but beneath the surface, the roots are stretching. The energy is being gathered. The sap is beginning to stir in the hidden places. You do not need to check the temperature every hour. You only need to remain in me, to stay rooted in the certainty that I am incapable of failure. Tomorrow, when he speaks to you with that old, familiar edge, smile. Not a smile of condescension, but a smile of secret knowledge. The knowledge that the wall is thinner than it was yesterday. The light is coming through the cracks, and once the light gets in, the darkness has no choice but to retreat. We are just beginning the most beautiful part of the story, the part where the frost finally breaks and the first green shoot of vulnerability dares to peek through the soil. Rest in that hope. I am holding him, and I am holding you, and neither of you will fall. When the sun rises tomorrow, it will not announce itself with a trumpet blast, but with the quiet, persistent invasion of light through your window. This is how I am moving in him. You will walk into the kitchen and the air will feel heavy with the residue of yesterday's silence. You will see him there, perhaps hunched over the morning paper or staring blankly into a mug of coffee, his shoulders set like a fortress. In that moment, your human instinct will be to brace yourself, to put on your own armor before he can strike with a sharp word or a dismissive glance. But I am asking you to remain undefended. Watch the way the steam rises from his cup, thin, fleeting, and fragile. That is the true state of his soul, despite the granite exterior he presents to the world. I want you to notice the specific way his hands tremble just slightly when he thinks no one is looking. This is not weakness. It is the vibration of a heart trying to keep itself closed against a love it does not feel worthy to receive. Do you remember the summer he was 12, and he lost that race he had trained for so hard? He didn't cry then either. He simply retreated into a shell of self-reliance, deciding that if he never needed anyone, no one could ever let him down. He has been living in that shell for decades, decorating it with pride and reinforcing it with anger. But I was there in the dust of that finish line, and I am here now in the quiet of this kitchen. When he looks at you and makes that comment about your naivety or mocks the peace you found in me, do not recoil. Do not offer a rebuttal. Instead, I want you to see the frightened boy behind the graying hair and the cynical eyes. I am giving you my eyes, the eyes that see through the mask of the difficult person, to the wounded child who just wants to be known without being judged. Notice the details of the room, the way the light hits the scuff marks on the floorboards, the hum of the refrigerator, the ordinary reality of a Tuesday morning. This is the cathedral of the commonplace where I perform my greatest miracles. You might feel a surge of frustration when he ignores your attempt at kindness. You might feel the old urge to point out his hypocrisy. In those seconds, breathe me in. I am the steady rhythm of your heart. I am the coolness in your spirit that prevents the fire of his temper from catching. I am teaching you a secret. His anger is not an arrow aimed at you. It is a cry for help muffled by his own fear. As the day progresses, look for the unintended moments. Perhaps he will linger a second longer in the doorway before leaving. Perhaps he will mention a memory from your shared past, something small, like the smell of your grandmother's porch or the sound of the rain on the tin roof of your childhood home. These are the fissures in the wall. When he speaks of these things, listen with your whole being. Do not try to turn the conversation toward a spiritual lesson. Do not try to fix him. Just be a witness to his existence. Your presence, seasoned with my peace, is a more powerful sermon than any words you could assemble. Think of the way a glacier moves. It is slow, nearly invisible to the naked eye, but its weight and persistence reshape the very earth beneath it. My love in you is that glacier. It is moving against the mountain of his resistance. You may not see the boulders shifting today, but the pressure is constant, and the outcome is certain. I want you to think about the burdens he carries that he has never named, the secret failures that haunt his sleep, the quiet shames he believes define him. He thinks he is protecting himself by being hard, but he is only trapping himself in a cold room. You are the one I have chosen to bring the warmth. Not a searing heat that burns, but a gentle, consistent glow that invites the frost to melt. Later in the afternoon, when the shadows begin to lengthen and the house grows quiet, you might find yourself feeling weary. You might wonder if any of this matters. In those moments, come to me. Let me pour into you the energy you have spent. You are not a well that can run dry. You are a channel connected to an ocean. The more you give to him, the more I will flow into you. I am deepening the well of your empathy. I am showing you that to love the unlovable is to touch the hem of my garment. It is the closest you will ever get to seeing my face while you are still on this side of eternity. This journey with him is not a detour in your spiritual life. It is the very center of it. Every time you choose a soft answer over a sharp one, every time you pray for him while he is being unkind, you are participating in the renewal of all things. You are showing him that there is a different way to be human, a way that is not based on defense and attack, but on grace and surrender. Rest in the knowledge that I am already in his tomorrow. I am already standing at the end of this struggle, holding the version of him that is finally free. We are walking toward that version together, one heartbeat at a time. Do not be discouraged by the silence. The silence is often where I do my most profound work. It is the soil where the seed of transformation is cracking open in the dark. Trust the dark. Trust the process. Trust me. As the evening settles into the corners of the living room and the low hum of the refrigerator becomes the only soundtrack to the deepening twilight, look at him. Truly look at him, not through the lens of your exhaustion or the history of his sharp words, but through my eyes. I want you to see the invisible weight he carries in his shoulders, the way he leans into his chair as if he is bracing for a storm that passed 20 years ago. You see a wall of stubbornness. I see a fortress built by a frightened child who never learned that it was safe to be vulnerable. Every time he rebuffs your kindness, he is not rejecting you. He is testing the perimeter of his own safety. He is asking, without words, if there is anything in this world, or beyond it, that is stronger than his pain. And tonight, as you stand in the kitchen preparing a meal he may not even thank you for, I want you to know that the steam rising from the pot is a prayer. The simple act of setting his place at the table, of choosing the mug he likes best, of making room for his presence despite his coldness, is a liturgy of the highest order. Do not look for immediate cracks in the stone. Instead, notice the way the air in the house changes when you refuse to meet his anger with your own. Notice how the silence between you, which used to be heavy with unspoken grievances, is beginning to feel like a space where a seed might actually breathe. I am teaching you the art of the long shadow. Just as the sun casts its longest influence when it is lowest on the horizon, your influence is greatest when you are most humble. Think of the way water finds its way through granite, not by force, but by the relentless, quiet insistence of its nature. You are becoming that water. There will be moments, perhaps even tomorrow morning when the coffee is brewing and he offers another biting remark, where your heart will lurch with the old instinct to defend yourself. In that heartbeat, breathe my name. I am the space between your impulse and your action. I am the bridge that allows you to walk over the chasm of his bitterness without falling in. I want you to remember the time he sat by the window last week, staring out at the rain for an hour. You thought he was merely being distant, but I was there with him in that silence, showing him the reflections of a life he thinks he has wasted. I am stirring the embers of his regret, not to condemn him, but to warm him back to life. Your job is not to provide the fire. Your job is to keep the room ready for when he finally decides to come in from the cold. There is a specific grace I am giving you for his particular edges. I know how his voice can grate on your spirit, how his refusal to acknowledge your efforts feels like a slow erosion of your worth. But your worth is hidden with me, far beyond the reach of his approval or his scorn. Because you are anchored in me, you can afford to be generous with him. You can afford to lose the argument to win the soul. Look at the worn edges of the Bible on your nightstand, or the way the light catches the dust motes in the hallway. Everything in your environment is shouting of my patience. My patience with the world, my patience with you, and my patience with him. We are engaged in a slow-motion miracle. One day, perhaps not in a grand explosion of apology, but in a quiet, mundane moment, a shared look over a grandchild's laughter, or a hand placed briefly on a sleeve, the frost will finally give way. He will realize that you never left. He will realize that while he was trying to push you away, you were the very anchor keeping him from drifting into the abyss of his own making. When that moment comes, you will not feel a sense of triumph, but a profound, shimmering peace. You will realize that in softening his heart, I have also reshaped yours. You have become someone who knows how to love without a net, someone who understands that the greatest power in the universe is the one that was willing to be broken for the sake of the hard-hearted. So, go to sleep tonight knowing that the work is continuing while you rest. My spirit is moving through the hallways of your home, touching the doors he has locked, whispering to the secrets he thinks are hidden. I am the God of the locked room and the hardened heart. There is no bolt I cannot slide back, no stone I cannot roll away. Trust the slow dawn. Trust the quiet persistence of my love flowing through your hands. You are doing a beautiful thing, and I am with you in every sigh, every prayer, and every soft answer. We are bringing him home, one heartbeat at a time, until the day when all the walls are down and there is nothing left but the light.